Good evening and welcome to this evening's panel discussion. This panel discussion is entitled Children During Genocide, Gaza's Children, facilitated by the Palestinian Return Center. We'll be addressing the toll of the past 10 months of Israel's onslaught has had on the children of Gaza, from the harrowing images from Rafah to the increasing figures of Palestinian children amputees to the increased WCNSF wounded child, no surviving family cases, and the toll this is having on Gaza's youngest. Our first speaker of today's panel discussion is Malak Saeed. Defense for Children International Palestine is an independent local Palestinian child rights organization dedicated to defending and promoting the rights of children living in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip. Malak Saeed is an advocacy officer for DCIP and specializes in protection of human rights, particularly for children and marginalized groups. She works to raise awareness and advocate against the human rights violations suffered by Palestinian children. Over to you, Malak.
Thank you, Farah, and thanks for Palestine Return Center for this invitation to speak about children of Gaza. And it's a great topic to speak nowadays because, as we see, unfortunately, the number is exceeding. First of all, I would like to continue more speaking about the DCIP before jumping to Palestinian children in Gaza. DCIP, as Farah mentioned, is an independent Palestinian organization, was established in 1991, and the organization have investigated, documented, and exposed the grave human rights violations against Palestinian children, and providing legal services for these children, and held Israeli and Palestinian authorities accountable. And to the universal human rights principles. Basically, speaking about our missions, first is defending these children, second, monitoring and documenting these grave violations, and this is what we are doing right now regarding what's happening in Gaza. Thirdly, exposing these violations and speak up on these violations to worldwide, as we are doing now. And lastly, empowering and advocating these children to be a positive change in their future, inshallah. Speaking about Gaza children or Palestinian in Gaza, unfortunately, the situation is getting worse for these children. And regarding our rule in Gaza, at the beginning of this offense, or let's say genocide, we managed to collect the names and the stories of these children because we have this perspective of that each child has a special story and has special dreams, and this should be documented and spread around the world so that people can know that these children, if they grow up in a good environment, not hyper-militarized environment, they would be a positive change for the universe. At the beginning, we used to have one field researcher in Gaza, but unfortunately, because the situation is getting escalated, we stopped for a while because our colleague in Gaza suffered from what's happening from this genocide, and of course he has children and he has wife and family and have to look for them. We stopped for a while documenting the cases of children because of first the numbers, as now there are around 16,000 children have been killed by the Israeli genocide. Secondly, because of the situation became more impossible to access to many norms of having any information about the children because of, as we know, the deliberate destruction of the infrastructure in Gaza Strip. Hopefully, at the beginning of this year, we managed to have more four field researchers, and these researchers start documenting cases of Gaza children and their suffering. And unfortunately, a lot of horrific stories are coming out from Gaza Strip, even more worse than we are seeing in social media and even on media television. These these Gaza researchers managed to have these stories, and we managed to speak up and to provide advocacy reports for these children, most focusedly nowadays on many things, as we can see. First is the starvation and malnutrition. Before 2 days, one of our researchers managed to get access to one of the hospitals in Gaza, and he collected many cases of these children. Today, by the way, I was reading these cases, and it's heartbreaking, really. Just to give you a case of these children, one of these children is an infant, and her mother is a doctor in the same hospital. Sorry, it's Kamal Adwan Hospital, and she gave birth for this child, and she continued working to help the wounded and to help the injuries inside the hospital. Unfortunately, she has to leave her daughter for a while so she can follow up on her work and follow up on other patients. For after a while to discover that she lost her baby because of the lack of medical food and clean water and etc., as we all know. Speaking also, the whole situation is happening in Gaza. It's affecting the children physically. So as we can see, the deliberate targeting of civilians nowadays, but the most ones who are affecting from these are children. Of course, all of them are affected, but of course, children's, because they are the youngest generations, and this causes traumas for these children's. We documented many cases of these targeting, and many children, thousands, have been disabled because of these deliberate targeting. One of the cases that we wrote about is that a child was targeted by this modern, let's say, a drone, a quadcopter, as you heard of it. And unfortunately, the child now is paralyzed. All his body is paralyzed. Otherwise, this child was dreaming to be a doctor and helping his people in Gaza to be more healthy and to be more in good condition despite the whole situation. After this physical traumas that's happening to these children, let's not forget the psychological trauma. As we see, unfortunately, that children have been affecting in some way how because of sounds, losing of parents, losing of limbs, the situation of lack of food, water, access to education. This is one of the things, unfortunately, been targeted. The schools that used to be education facilities, and after during the current genocide, it became sheltering centers. But even they are sheltering centers, but unfortunately they are targeted. And as we saw yesterday, there a Norwa school, unfortunately, was targeted, and many lost their lives because of this. Continue about education. This year, I'm not sure if all of you know about the Tawjih exam. I'm going to details because these details more important than to be in general or overview. This Tawjih exam is determining the future of these children. Unfortunately, this year, around 4,000 children didn't manage to get this education or this exam because of the situation. That means that around 40,000 children are being deprived from their right to get to education in universities and in schools. This 40,000 is among more than 500,000 of children have lost their right of having education and go to school because of this targeting of the schools. Even targeting of the schools nowadays makes the schools even not compatible to be used after this genocide finish, hopefully soon, inshallah. But the deliberate targeting of these schools make them halt from delivering their services after that. Speaking about the health situation, as we all know, the hospitals are being targeted, and unfortunately, the lack of medical attention inside these hospitals made a lot of children lose their lives. Besides being starved and malnutritioned. And this long-term impact have been resulting in more than 16,000 children being killed during this 9 months, and around 20 children have been injured, and 20,000, sorry, have been injured. Around 17,000 children have been without a parent or two parents. Among these 17,000 children, 3% are lost their two parents. So that meaning they are, as we say it, a wounded child without a surviving family. Also, the about this case of not having family members, one of the things that DCIB managed to have a hand in is that we have a UNICEF project, and this project targets these children who are having no parent or two parents to be look after and to give care for. So therefore, these children are being referred to the UNICEF so they can be provided with a special needs depend on their situation and specific needs. I would like to go more about the stories because the stories are more important than speaking in general. One of the stories that come up a few days ago from our field researchers, and this field researcher unfortunately wasn't able to work nowadays because her father was injured, and of course we give her space to look for her father and to look for their safety because they were around Shuja'iyya ground innovation. However, during that time, she referred this case of a family, and it's honestly heartbreaking. A family of 6 members, two parents, of course, the parents, and 4 children. They were targeted during their displacement safety by a quadcopter. Let's keep in mind that quadcopter is also targeting civilians. This drone killed 2 parents in front of their children, and leave them wounded and bleeding in front of their eyes. And the children were trapped in one of the demolished, let's say, one of the destructed houses in the neighborhood they were in. And they stayed there for many hours until the late night. During the night, the dogs came to eat the bodies of the parents. But hopefully the children managed to prevent this, despite that one of the children have been severely injured, and after around more than 15 hours they were evacuated and they saw their parents bleeding and dying in front of their eyes. One of the things also been really touching to see is that the challenges of children with disabilities in Gaza, despite the situation of these children with disabilities, but they are having double challenges during these times because they lost their special schools. Despite their disability, they lost their parents. We have specific cases. By the way, these cases that I'm speaking about, they are shared on our website and social media. You can look for them and you can read the whole stories of these children. And some of the children became more traumatized because of losing their own schools, their own friends, teachers, parents, and making things worse for them, and became more depressed day after day. DCIB managed to share 4 days ago a story of group of children. After 9 months, unfortunately, these children didn't have the chance to speak about, but hopefully DCIB managed to look for this case and we publish about it. Many of children from Gaza coming to Jerusalem hospitals seeking for medical attention, especially the chronic diseases children. However, during the first days of 7th of October, these children were deprived from this health care and they were expelled from these hospitals, not to their homes with their families, but in West Bank. That means that they are disabled in West Bank and they are settled in departments and hotels that not even sufficient for their special needs. Let's keep in mind also that the occupied West Bank healthcare is also insufficient for these children and all for the chronic diseases patients. One of the stories of these children, his name is Karam, and you can see his video on social media. We published it a few days ago. Karam came to Jerusalem to seek healthcare, and he was looking for to have a surgery so he can be a pilot in the future and to be like other children, practicing his life and be healthy as other children. Unfortunately, he was deprived from having the surgery and he is displaced in Ramallah with his grandmother, not even his parents. On 14th of February, unfortunately, he had a call from his uncle about the killing of his mother and two sisters. And we managed to meet him after this, and his situation was traumatically not very well, of course, despite his disease and despite his loss and trauma and everything. So basically, what the CIB is doing in this stage that we are documenting these cases because we believe that these children are not numbers. They are stories, they have dreams, they have a vision in the future to be a positive change in their society. But unfortunately, they didn't get the chance to be born in peaceful environments so they can grow normal as other children around the world. Not the world, of course. So we get these stories to raise an awareness about these depriving of human rights of children in Gaza and in West Bank and East Jerusalem, basically in Palestinian territories, and to change the policies and make change and ask for those ones to ask their politicians to make change in policies and do change. Finally, before making things longer for you, one of the things that have been noticed nowadays in Gaza Strip and the children they've been targeting a lot from is that unexploded ordnance. This have been we received a lot of cases of this topic, and many children became wounded and disabled because of these ordnance that not exploded yet because of the innovation. If I want to speak more and more about the stories, it will take days, not specific hours. But I'd like to stop here and give a chance to others to speak, and I'm welcoming any questions after the session. Farah, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Malak, for your insightful input there. It's an honor to have you and to hear from you and the incredible work that Defense for Children International Palestine does. We'll be coming back to Malak at the end for questions and answers. So if you do have any questions for Malak or our other speaker, Nick Bilbrough, then please do leave them in the comment section on the Facebook and the YouTube live stream. Thank you again, Malak. Our next speaker of today's panel discussion is Nick Bilbrough. Nick is a teacher trainer, and ELT author. He founded the Hands Up Project charity in 2015 as a vehicle for young people in Palestine to develop their English language skills and feelings of connectedness to the world through intercultural communication, remote theatre, and online storytelling activities. Over to you, Nick.
I'm muted. Thank you very much, Farah, for inviting me to speak at this event. And I'd also like to thank Malak for that very insightful overview of what's been happening since the genocide in Gaza began. And let's be honest, it's a genocide, it's also educide. Behind me is the Islamic University. This is on the last visit that I made to Gaza in July of last year, where we held a conference for teachers, volunteers involved in the Hands Up project. And we invited lots of young children who'd taken part in a poetry competition to receive copies of their books. And this university, like all universities in Gaza, has now been destroyed. And like many schools, you mentioned in your talk, Malak, that the children of Gaza are not numbers. And in my talk, I would like to put some faces to some of the children that we've worked with over the years, and also talk about what's happened to them since October the 7th. So it's very personal for us in the Hands Up project. We started in 2015. We've done lots of arts-based educational programs, mostly online. We have run competitions for children to create plays in English. And in recent years, these plays have been performed remotely and also interculturally. So we've had children performing plays through Zoom, where we've had some children in Gaza, 2 or 3 children in Gaza, working with 2 or 3 children in one other country, and they've performed a play together. We also connect groups of children to other young children around the world for intercultural dialogue and activities like show and tell, and just getting to know each other and finding out about the world through discussion. If I could just share my first slides, thank you very much. So this is the kind of thing that we used to do. I just wanted to focus a little bit on what's been lost. Education in Gaza comes under a lot of criticism. Both the UNRWA system, that's the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, which provide education or used to provide education for the refugee community of Gaza, and also the Ministry of Education, has come under a lot of criticism, mainly, well, principally from Israel, but shared by many countries around the world. And I would like to say, for the record, I've worked in many countries around the world. I've lived in lots of countries. I've worked in the education system of lots of countries. I have never experienced an education system which is as outward looking, as interested in intercultural understanding as the education system in Gaza. And that applies to both the United Nations, UNRWA schools, and the Ministry of Education schools. Here, for example, is a school, Ministry of Education school, a girls' school in Gaza City, and we're doing an intercultural link up related to their course book, where we're trying to just bring an intercultural element to the language that they're studying in the course book, English for Palestine. Not many places in the world would be open to doing such a thing. And it's particularly remarkable that these children, 95% of them had never left the Gaza Strip. They're in an incredibly cramped classroom, 50 students to a class, no space to move, probably no electricity for most of the day, and very, very few resources. If we could just move on to the next slide. Oh, I can do that myself. So another thing that we've done is establish drama clubs in Gaza. And this is on a visit that I made to Gaza in 2017 to visit one of the drama clubs that we worked with. And the children that you can see in the picture have really grown up with the Hands Up project. They've participated in lots of plays, acted in plays, and done lots of drama activities, also remotely. And the teacher there is a remarkable woman, and we'll hear a little bit more about her work a little bit later. Hannah, her name is. And this is in a school, Beit Hanun Elementary School in northern Gaza. So, as I mentioned briefly at the beginning, one of the things that we do as well is to create intercultural plays. So here is a play that was performed by 3 girls in Gaza and 2 girls in the Czech Republic. They'd never met each other face to face. They had to rehearse the play, practice it, plan how they were going to finally perform it, all through Zoom. 2 different time zones, very complicated, but the children of Gaza are the world experts in this form of theatre, which we call remote theatre. Now, this play, Welcome to Earth, was one of the winning plays. Well, it was the actual overall winning play in 2022. And as their prize, we took them to a school in Belfast, and the children met each other for the first time. The 2 girls from the Czech Republic, the 3 girls from Gaza met each other face to face. They stayed with host families in Belfast, and they worked towards a face-to-face performance of their play in collaboration with the drama teacher of the school, the dance teacher, the art teacher, and the choir. And they made a huge production in front of the whole, which they performed in front of parents and lots of other members of the school community. And it was a huge success. Amar, if you wouldn't mind just sharing my first video, which is Rahaf, the video of Rahaf. So after the performance, they just performed their play in front of parents and an invited audience. And this is what we do in the Hands Up project. This is what we used to do. We used to build confidence of young people through theatre, through the arts. And this is Rahaf when she just finished the performance of the play. And this is what she said.
Yes, today in my life, because today I sent my message for the whole world. I'm Palestinian. I can achieve my dream. Nobody can stop me. Nobody I can achieve. And I will achieve my long-term achievements. Goodbye.
So Rahaf there. You can stop sharing that now, please. So Rahaf was inspired by the experience of acting in a play. She was inspired as well by that was the first time ever out of Gaza and meeting other young people. She's an incredible young person. She's now 16. And quite early on, in the bombing of Gaza, we started to get messages from Rahaf. And in the end of November, we're getting messages from all of the children that we're working with, and from teachers. Every day, we're on a daily basis, we're getting messages from children, sometimes audio messages, sometimes just written messages, about the atrocities that have been committed against them. So this is Rahaf's message that she sent to me in the end of November. Dreams, hope, life, peace, security, future memories, happiness, dreams, education. Can you imagine to lost them all at once? Hi world, my name's Rahaf. I'm Palestinian from Gaza. And of course, you all know what's happening now in Gaza. No comment. I'm just a little girl. But today I'll talk on behalf of all the Palestinian children. I want to tell you about the pain and suffering that we have endured because of the war here in Gaza. I'm a little girl, but I have a big message to the whole world. Right now, I'm in the middle of the war. We hear bombs, explosions, gunshots, crying, and so on. It doesn't matter to me. We're used to hear that for a long time. But what about the kids and the children? Is this fair? I have seen my parents, family, and friends cry and worry every day. We live here in Gaza just with our bodies. No electricity, no water, no food, no internet, no cleanliness, no security. I want to ask you all, am I a child? Where's the childhood? Where's the human rights? Is this the life we dream to live? Where's the world? I lost my family members, my friends, my home, my dreams, my school, my future. Every day we live like a year. And it goes on, and there are many, many messages like that. Rahaf's school and the school that I showed you at the beginning, Beit Hanun Elementary School and the prep school, both UNRWA schools, was destroyed by the Israeli army in late December last year. It was destroyed in a controlled explosion, and it was destroyed to whoops of delight by the Israeli army, and then shared widely on social media as something to be proud of. Of course, this school has a particular strong connection to us in the Hands Up project, because it's the school where lots of children have gone to and done lots of intercultural link-ups and performed plays. But the teacher that I showed you at the beginning, Hannah, she gave birth to her first child in November of last year during the bombing, with bombing going on all around her. But without any thought, she decided that she wanted to carry on. Her school had been destroyed, but she wanted to carry on providing quality education to those children. And so she set up a drama club in her own home. And the Hands Up project now has at least 7 very active drama and storytelling clubs, which have been set up by people in their own homes just for the local community. So any kids who live locally can come to the school, can come to the house and do drama activities. And Hannah actually ended up making a play with the children, which I would like to share with you now. It's just a short play performed by children between the ages of 8 and 14. So if we could share the second video now.
Once upon a time, there was a happy family called Rabbit. They were fast, wise, and kind. They were enjoying their simple life in their peaceful home. Sometimes they go out to get some food or have some fun. But one day, all the animals were scared and started hiding.
The lion is here. It came back again.
Yes, the brutal lion is here again.
Hi, Lamb. Let's hide.
Oh, no.
Come here, my children. Let's get inside.
Is it safe there, Mom?
No place is safe. You stupid. It can attack all of us in 1 second.
Listen to me. We hope it's going to be safe, and we pray for it to be safe. If he's strong, then our faith needs to be stronger. So let's get inside. It wouldn't take so long, just a couple of days. And believe me, it will be over soon.
Okay, Mom.
Mom, it's cold. I think winter came.
Okay, I'll go and get you something to warm you.
She looks carefully through the hole.
children. Here, I can warm all of you in my arms. And believe me, it will be over soon.
We hope so, Mom. Our food and water are running out. Only 2 carrots are left.
Okay, I'll go and get you something to eat.
She looks carefully through the hole.
Come here, my children. Come here. 2 carrots are good. We can survive on them and try other kinds of food and water. Try this.
But this is undrinkable water. And this is not for rabbits. It's not our food.
But we can try to eat it just for these days. And believe me, it will be over soon.
We hope so, Mom. Mom, I miss my friends. Are you okay?
Okay, I'll go and check on them.
She looks carefully through the hole.
Come here, my children. Come here. Of course they are fine. I just hear them shouting and playing.
So, Mom, let me go and play with them, please.
Okay, I'll let you, but not today. Just wait. It will be over soon.
Okay, Mom.
Oh, my children! Where are you? Just let me hear your voice.
I'm here, Mom. I'm okay, Mom.
Thanks God. You're okay. Thanks God.
Mom, what are we going to do now? Wasn't this our safe place? Where can we go now?
We can look for a new place and pray that it will be safe. Let's go.
Mom, when all of this will be over? Yes, Mom, we're tired.
Believe me, it will be over soon. It will be over soon. It will be over soon.
Now, that play was made by children in Hannah's drama club in her own house in April of this year. At that time, Jabalia was one of the most difficult places probably on earth to find food. And but it's incredible that both the teachers and the children just want to keep making things. They want to keep learning. They want to keep studying. They want to keep making art and sharing it with the world. How much time do I have? Am I okay to have a few more minutes?
Yes, take as long as you need.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Farah. So I'll just like to share my slides again now, if I can. And just moving on. So we've got these storytelling clubs that have been set up in people's own homes. These are Ministry of Education teachers who are doing it. They're not getting paid anything at all anymore. So we have, Hands Up Project, have started paying them to run these clubs in their own homes, and they're telling stories and they're doing language learning activities. And again, like the drama clubs, it's just anyone locally who can come. So we have children of all ages. But what's really interesting is this isn't just about doing stories and kind of confidence building. It's also about making sure that the curriculum is covered. As I've said previously, Gaza is a place that values education massively. And all of those children want to do their grammar exercises. They want to study areas of language. They're still striving to get better at English so that they can do well in their exams at some point when those exams ever happen. So I wanted to read out a message from one of the teachers who's been involved in this. And every day we're getting videos, images of activities that they're doing in their classes. And it's empowering for the children to have this possibility, but it's also empowering for the teachers. And I wanted to read out a message from Hannah, and also called Hannah, who's one of the teachers in this. Sorry, just lost the message. There we are. And she says this: I'm so pleased to know that people like you care about us here in Gaza. It's really admirable. We can't thank you enough. I would like to agree with what my colleague, Mr. Omar, has already mentioned, because we share almost the same circumstances. I also teach my group in Al-Sheikh Redwan in northern Gaza. I called my group English Fans because my students are big fans of English language. They enjoy being able to practice English, work together, play educational games, draw and paint, and most importantly, listen to a new story each time. My students are almost 20 in number, from grades 6, 7, 8, and 9. I hold the session in a room beneath my house. It's not large enough, but we manage. Actually, the bad circumstances here in northern Gaza affects our sessions, just like my colleague Omar said. Most of the students have to miss class because of hepatitis, which almost all my students were infected with. Not to forget the bombing all the time, which scares both me and my students and forced us to skip one of the sessions after bombing the house next door. Another thing to say is the number of my students were refugees in this area, and after that they went back to their homes. Now they have to walk a very long way to reach the class, as there is no transportation. They arrive really tired, but with a big smile, because they enjoy the class. Their enthusiasm and desire to learn gives them the power and pleasure to give the best of those sessions. I just want to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to be back again to teaching. It's my real passion, being amongst those incredible students. I mean, that would be something to be proud of under normal circumstances. But to want to teach when you're starving, when there's not enough food, and when there's bombing going on all around you is completely admirable. We could stop sharing the slides now, and I'd just like to finish with what I started with, and that's this image here of the Islamic University, which, as I said, is no more. Like all universities in Gaza, it's been destroyed. And I presented myself and various other Hands Up Project volunteers presented copies of the book Moon Tell Me Truth to the children who had poems in the book. And we asked them to write a 50-word poem inspired by a picture of the moon that was painted by a 14-year-old girl in Gaza. And I want to read you out. We know for sure, whoops, I've got the green screen and you can't see that. But we asked the children to handwrite the poems and also to decorate them in any way that they wanted to. And I want to read you out a poem of one of the children who we know has been killed. We only know so far that 2 of them have been killed. We don't know, we haven't heard from most of them, so it's very likely that many have been killed. This poem is written by Fatima Saidem. She was killed in early November in an airstrike on her house. She was 9 years old when she was killed, and she was killed with her entire family. And the poem goes like this. Eyes are for looking and seeing sun. Tongues are for greeting and saying fun. Legs are for walking slowly and also run. Hands are for shaking with friends, not for shooting gun. So I think I'll end there, and would very much welcome any questions or comments that anybody has. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick, for your insightful and very moving contribution to the panel discussion there. If we can, please bring back Melek to the panel discussion. We're just going to open the panel to a few questions from the online audience. So we got a few questions for both speakers. So I'm just going to start with a question for Melek. We've spoken in depth on the overwhelming and almost incomprehensible impact the current genocide is having on the children of Gaza, from the attacks we saw in Rafah to almost every school being attacked, to the new abbreviation of wounded child with no surviving family, and even before October 7th, it was very much a known fact that PTSD didn't exist in Gaza specifically because the trauma wasn't ever in past tense. It was always ongoing. So they're always in a constant state of trauma, which we can only imagine has been amplified during the past 10 months. So the question from online viewer is, what does the current situation look like for Palestinian children in the West Bank? We've seen an increase, obviously, in extrajudicial killings of Palestinian children, and I guess increase of Palestinian detainees, but with the monitoring of human rights by DCI Palestine, what has that looked like for Palestinian children in the West Bank since October 7th?
Amazing question. I'd like to thank someone who asked. By the way, unfortunately, the Palestinian children in West Bank are suffering as well. I would like to go a little bit in statistics. In 2023, 121 children have been killed by the Israeli forces. 80 of these children being killed after October 7th. From October 7th until now, 36 children have been killed. 55 children at the beginning from this year. So these statistics, unfortunately, showing that this year has been the deadliest year for children, Palestinian children in West Bank. First, second, the number is exceeding regarding the killing of children in West Bank in the middle of all this aggression happens, whether illegal settlement expansion, the checkpoints, and also let's not forget the military operations happens not only in the refugees camps nowadays, but they're happening also in villages, in cities, everywhere, even the Bedouin communities. Let's not forget also what's happening in south of West Bank with the displacement of Bedouins. Regarding also one of the things that the CIB is focusing right now in West Bank is the detention. It's been reported by the Israeli prison service as of March 31, around 194 children have been detained by the Israeli forces, and they are detained inside Israeli military facilities. 61 of them, they are administrative detainees. And if we look for, or let's say, if we focus more about the administrative detention, the administrative detention form of detaining a person without any charge and without any announcing of charge. And most of the times, this detention based on suspicion, even posting on Facebook or social media, even liking a post anywhere, even sometimes photoshopping a picture with rifle or any kind of weapons. And this detention, unfortunately, goes under a secret, they say it, secret file. And most of these detentions are up to 6 months, 6 months with possible extension indefinitely. This one of the things actually been increasing in numbers. However, during the last months, we received many affidavits from children about torture and ill treatment of children inside the prisons. I would like to speak more if I have time for it. I'd like to
Yes, please
speak
go.
more. Yeah, I'd like to speak more about this child. Was detained in April, and he's 14 years old child. He was only detained for 24 hours, but these 24 hours were with continuous torture and ill treatment for the child. This child was walking with his friends, with his friends around the village of Azzoun. And if you know about Azzoun village, that it's surrounded with many settlements, illegal settlements, and it's the entrance of the village is controlled by a military checkpoint. He was detained, he was tortured, and even he was threatened to be killed by strangulation. He lost his conscience because of the breathing from water, food, and sanitation. And after 3 hours, he found himself in a room with the prison cell with a dog, and the soldier threatened the child of being killed by a dog. Also, this child, during the one of the hours of detention and torturing, one of the soldiers put his foot in his mouth and the other foot in his chest. So this shows the escalation of torturing children and the Palestinians, despite the accusation. And that's why he's been released after 24 hours. That means he's not being charged. It's not just only a punishment for Palestinians, despite their gender, their age, their accusation, even they're totally innocent. So I would say the situation in West Bank not very well. I think you hear the ambulance now. So there is a silent genocide in West Bank, and there is a deliberate displacing and targeting Palestinians in West Bank, despite the place, despite the location, and despite all the basic rights. Thank you. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Just to stem on from what you're talking about, like we've seen in recent weeks and months, and also last year as well, we've seen the Israeli occupation target human rights organizations like yours, like Defense for Children International Palestine. And what reason do you think that is? For what reason is the occupation going after human rights organizations?
I would say, I'm not sure if I can translate this. We have a proverb in Arabic that says, you hit someone on its hurting hand. I'm not sure if I say it very well, but we say it in Arabic. نضرب الشخص على إيد اللي بتوجعه. That means that if the Israelis didn't find that we are documenting the grave human rights violation for Palestinians, they wouldn't target us. They wouldn't target many organizations such DCIB and others. So that means that our work is making difference, our work being spread around the world, and that means that we're telling the truth, and they didn't want this truth to be revealed and to be shown to the world. And despite this designation, we're still working, and we're still on our mission because of our mission to protect the children and to alleviate their suffering.
Thank you, Malik. We have a question for Nick. In your intro, we mentioned that you are a teacher based in Britain. What differences would you see in teaching children in Britain opposed to teaching in Palestine? Kind of the obstacles in the way of delivering the education to children. What would you see are the stark differences from teaching Palestinian children in Palestine to teaching British children in Britain?
Wow. The answer might be somewhat surprising, because I would say children in Britain do not value education to the same extent that children in Gaza do, and all over Palestine do. We've done lots of link-ups between young people in schools in the UK and young people in schools in Gaza. And we invariably find that the children in Gaza are much more, find it much easier to communicate through the medium of Zoom interculturally, and are much more interculturally aware than children in the UK. And that's surprising, since most of them have never left the country and haven't been exposed to people in other countries. But I think motivation is often a lot higher in classes in Palestine, despite all the atrocities that are committed against them, despite the occupation, despite the blockade. Motivation to learn is stronger. Of course, there are masses of differences in terms of resources and availability of anything, really. I mean, it's just, in Gaza, it's very limited what is available, but there is a desire to learn there, and we can still see it now, despite everything that's happened. It's still there. If it's okay with you, I'd just like to comment on the previous question regarding post-traumatic stress. And I think you're so right, Farah, to say that there weren't many cases of it before in Gaza, because everyone was living it constantly. And I've recently been in Egypt, and I think that's where it's coming out now, with the Palestinian population of Egypt, people who've left Gaza and are no longer having to survive, having to just use up all their energy on survival. I think that now those people need a lot of support in terms of trauma, because it's all coming out now, what they've witnessed and what they've experienced.
Mhm.
Yeah.
100%. Also, just to add into what you were mentioning there, um, it's almost inconceivable to think about the ending of all of this and the toll this is going to have on generations hereafter. You know, the generation of Palestinian children that we're talking about today are often on the receiving end of intergenerational trauma. So where does that place today's generation of Palestinian children in Gaza and the West Bank who are living through this genocide? Where does that leave them in futures to come? It's almost their futures if they survive this genocide. It's very harrowing to even mention, but if they survive this genocide, the impacts of having survived it is going to affect them for their whole life. And also, we've seen in the last 24 hours, the Lancet reveal how, according to a lot of historians and medical professionals, that the estimations of the death toll in Gaza exceed that of 186,000, and of that that's a conservative estimate. They believe it's a lot higher than that. And then where within that is how many children is within that stark and huge harrowing figure. So I just wanted to wrap up with any final comments from both you, Melek and Nick. Should we head to Melek first and then Nick?
Thank you. Well, actually, the most thing nowadays we are trying to do is documenting as possible as we can of cases of children, whether in West Bank and Gaza, but of course, main focus on Gaza. And day after day, unfortunately, we are seeing more horrific stories. One of the things that I would like to share before we leaving, that today when I was looking for the news about children's situation nowadays, and as you know, it's summer and it's scorching summer in Palestine, and you can imagine how is the living in a tent would be. uh, of course, a lot of hazards, the heat, the lack of water, of course, cold water. And one of the testimonies that I heard on radio, they're saying that it's a testimonies from the field, by the way, that says that this person saying that he saw something written on it saying this tent has children but doesn't have it has any parents. So that means that the children are living on their own inside this tent, inside depriving of their basic rights. And also that this weather comes with a lot of hazards, whether from the wild creatures that are coming from the wildlife. And we saw a lot of things that spreaded around with scorpions, insects, and etc. And of course, these things doubles the suffering of Palestinians and of course the children. Also, before just finishing my word, one of our field researchers, the one that I mentioned at the beginning, that he managed to document some cases but didn't manage to continue because of the situation. Hopefully, a few months ago, he fled to Egypt with his children, and he started documenting cases of children, Gaza children in Egypt. And these cases shows that if the children survived from the genocide inside the Gaza Strip, but their suffering is doubled in Egypt because of lack of health conditions, their access to basic rights. They can't move out from their area, or let's say from their zone that they're supposed to be the whole time. Some of them they suffered not to leave their room in the hospital. One of the stories that I read this morning, and it was heartbreaking, is that a child only months old, I'm not sure how much, but Her parents were injured because of bombing their house, but she survived. And because of their injury, they managed to leave to Tunisia, and they left the girl in Gaza Strip with the relatives. But after a while, the child health became worse, and she started suffering from malnutrition. So she was evacuated to Egypt alone, without any parent, without any caregiver, and delivered to the Palestinian embassy in Egypt. So one of the Palestinians who is living in Egypt was contacted by this embassy, asking him if he can care for the girl until she can manage to go to meet her parents in Tunisia. And this was 1 month and a half ago, and the girl is still in Egypt without her parents. So what I like to mention that despite these Palestinians managed to evacuate away from the genocide, but their suffering is doubled outside the borders of this genocide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother. Over to you, Nick.
Yeah, well, when you ask about the future of education, the future of Palestinian children, obviously our first thoughts are dread, and as you said, this is something that children are going to live with for the rest of their lives. The impact of this, and it's going to be passed on to generations as well. That's one side of it. I've seen incredible stories of resilience in Gaza, even now. And I don't feel much hope, but I have to cling on to some hope that through connections with the outside world, I mean, there are children now, because of the intercultural connections that we've made through intercultural remote theatre. We've got young people in Venezuela, in Argentina, in the UK, all over the world, who are looking out for their friends who they've made a play with in Gaza. And that's important that happens. And I hope it's on a tiny scale. Very few children who've managed to make those connections outside. But I can see that in children who have worked in arts education and produced plays, written poems that have been read by other people around the world, the need and the ability to continue surviving and continue working on creating things is strong. And I hope that will be enough to bring people through. Some people. Yeah. But I mean, we've been through, at the moment, I feel like we've exhausted, the world is completely pathetic, really, the actions of the world. And I think we need some really strong actions from everywhere now to make a change.
100% agree with you there, Nick. We need strong action to create change, not only in Palestine but everywhere else. Children can't have a normal, healthy, and happy childhood that they deserve. And also, just a few stats and figures that we've seen over the past 10 months would be Palestinian children amputees being the highest child amputee population in the world. Also, as well, we should want to live in a world where children shouldn't have the ability to differentiate the sound of a drone flying overhead to a warplane to an F-16. These aren't things children should be able to differentiate, even to ever hear in their lifetimes. So I just wanted to again to thank both our speakers. Thank you, Melek, and thank you, Nick, for joining us today. And thank you everyone online tuning in. Just to wrap up, thank you for tuning in, and thank you to both of our speakers. Please do keep your eye on the Palestinian Return Center's social media, as PRC has more webinars and panel discussions just like these coming up. Thank you.